going live with JayJay today. We're going to be talking about tips for launching a digital product. JayJay actually helped me launch my influencer rate calculator, and I don't think I could have launched without her. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. It looks like JayJay just joined, so I'm just going to invite her on. And yeah, we're going to talk all things launching. So if you have any questions about launching a digital product, please feel free. And we're just going to talk about the process we went through. I launched the influencer rate calculator just almost over a year ago. I launched in March of 2021. So, hi JayJay.
Hi there! Oh, I'm so excited.
I am too. I like your backdrop. You got some books, some greenery.
Been working on it.
It looks legit.
Thank you. How's it going? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I've had a hectic in the morning. I had to film some content, and I happened to look at the clock because I didn't set an alarm, and it was 11:59. I was like, oh crap, I need to start this.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, how are you today?
I'm good. So happy it's Friday. I just, need a mental break. So yeah, everything's good, but just ready for the weekend.
Yay! Well, if you want, go ahead and introduce yourself to my audience. If you guys don't know, I'm going to do like a pre-intro.
Yeah.
JayJay and I are co-founders of the Orange Collab. So over on the Orange Collab, we encourage female women of color entrepreneurs to we just help them with their business. We help them feel seen, heard, and supported. And it's a really great group. We have a podcast called Let's Talk Orange, and JayJay's the host, and she does an amazing job. So that's JayJay's like other little part. Yeah. So, but go ahead.
No, the podcast has been really, really fun to do. And I think in like one of these last episodes, I think it was the episode on Wednesday, we talked about like having another hobby. And I've never considered like the podcast a hobby, but now that I'm in my business full time, like the podcast has been like that other creative outlet that like I can do something different. So it's really fun. I love it. So, but hi guys, I am JayJay. Tyler already said I am one of the co-founders of Orange Collab, but today we're here talking to you about launching. I am an event planner and a launch manager, and I know that kind of sounds weird to some people when they hear it at first. So here's how I marry the two. It's all project planning, and my goal is to really help business owners, small business owners, especially female business owners, increase their visibility through events and launches. And so that's really what I'm after, and really what I want to help support women do. We take on so much that we don't always realize, like we're always going, supporting other people. And sometimes it's just really necessary to have that support in our own businesses, especially when we're working on projects that are near and dear to us. So for like you with the rate calculator, it was something that you've been talking about for like ever, like creating this rate calculator. And then once you finally had it, like getting it out there, like that's something that's really special to you. So really just coming in on that end and helping you finally get it out there was really, really fun.
Yes. And I literally, you guys, I couldn't have launched this calculator without JayJay's help. JayJay, I guess we could talk about the process of how it happened, but I was talking about the calculator for, I think it was like at least 8 months or something before I finally pulled the plug and was like, okay, let's actually launch this. And I never had a plan. I kind of was like, I want to come out with a calculator. But at first I didn't even want to come out with the calculator. Actually, first I made it for myself. So I just wanted to use it for myself. And then MJ, who was a previous co-founder of the Orange Club, was like, Tyler, you need to launch this to the public. So I kept working on it, but I never set, I did set a deadline to launch in, I think it was November of 2020, but there were so many hiccups and stuff that I didn't meet that launch. And I didn't have after working with JayJay, like I did not have a plan for launching, and I kept moving the goalpost. Okay, I'm going to launch this day. I'm going to launch in January. But I had no plan on how I was going to prime my audience about this calculator, because even now we did follow a nice launch plan, but even now I get some people saying the influencer rate calculator, was a surprise to me, but I did kind of tease it a little bit, but I could have teased it more because I didn't follow the launch plan to a T. But
it's all good.
One thing, when you're launching a digital product, like I talk about thrifting, I talk about natural hair and stuff. So now I have a calculator, and like that seems out of nowhere to an audience. And without JayJay's help, I don't think I would have. I definitely start posting more like influencer tip kind of post, and I don't know. So let's talk about that whole
Right.
process.
No, but one of the things that I really noticed, and especially because we know each other, so I was able to really kind of pick up on that, is you absolutely had no intention of launching it, but it was something that you created for you, but you started to like, oh, here, like, you know, with other influencers, oh, let me use my calculator and see how much, like, maybe you should charge on a brand deal. And like that conversation kept coming up to where it was like, maybe this needs to be a product. And it is. And I love that you talked about like, your niche is not necessarily product creation, right? So there are some people out there who, you know, they're in their business or they're doing and they're supporting others. Myself, for example, I don't necessarily have products to offer people other than a set service. And so as an influencer, blogger, model, you had that. And so it can feel very uncomfortable to really get out there and really share that piece of yourself with others. But I think you did it, you married it great and you did it fine. And there's always things along the way. Like each time you launch, you learn different things that you can do. And so I think with you, the goal was, because it had been pushed back so much, to stop pushing it back. Pick a date, and the date was, you know, kind of soon, but in your schedule, that's what worked. So pick a date, and then let's decide what all we can do around this launch within that time frame that's already been set. And then really, I think the key thing for you was making sure that it was realistic, because we could have said like, oh, you can send 16 emails and you can do 2 posts a day, and that wasn't realistic for your life. Like that was not going to happen. So especially with the digital product, when you don't have an open and closed cart date, but yours was just, it's evergreen and there's going to be updates, we could really set the pace a little differently. So I think that's one of the things that people miss when launching, is they try and fit into this box when your product doesn't fit into a box, because you don't fit into a box. So let's kind of, you know, remove some of those barriers and really focus on what's going to work best for you.
And I think so literally what we did was we had was it a 2 hour, a 3 hour? How long did we
No,
sit
I think we did. So that's when I was doing my VIP days. Like, we're going to sit all day. Ours was a 4-hour session.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, it was 4 hours and we had a lunch break. I don't do that anymore. But yeah, we had a 4-hour session and we sat and we literally mapped everything out. I think the first thing that we did is we kind of got clear on like who it was for, some of your main messaging points, the problem that it solved and everything. And then from there, I literally pulled up a calendar and was like, okay, let's go ahead and plop in dates that you are unavailable or can't do things, and then kind of work backwards in terms of when do we want to send out emails, wanting to let your email list know first that this is coming up, and then moving to social media, and then dropping some, you know, lives and different things in there. And we kind of created your visibility plan from that standpoint. And then on the back end, we also talked a lot about when your website was going to be done, when, you know, you wanted to do like a walkthrough video, and like when all of those extra content pieces needed to be done. And then by the end of the call, when we got off, you had everything that you needed to go ahead and get started.
And what was really great about working with JayJay is, of course, as an influencer, I don't know, let me know in the comments if you are an influencer and if you have any plans of launching a product, whether it's digital or physical or anything, even if it's a service, like let me know. Because as influencers, we offer services, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. But for working with JayJay, like I already had a product in mind, and I had a product that was ready to launch. So JayJay helped me with getting it out there, spreading the word, actually coming up with a plan to, like she said, get my landing page and my website solidified, and actually launching the website so that way people can go and pre-order. We did a wait list on the influencer rate calculator, and she helped me with messaging on what emails do I send the wait list, and then she had me send like an email on what day it actually launched, and sending, you know, testimonials, because I had people who actually tested out the calculator before I launched. Like there's so much that goes into launching a product, and I feel like just like content, if you're an influencer, you can create the product, you can create the content, but then what? Like, will anyone see it? No one will see it or know about it until you share it and talk about it and increase your visibility. So JayJay helped me figure out like what days I'm going to do a YouTube video to announce a launch, what days I'm going to post to my Instagram. And I'm really bad at I post in real time usually. Like I do not like batching, I do not like pre-planning. So like this was very overwhelming for me to do on my own, but JayJay is super organized and she was like, boom, 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 plug it in here, plug it into the calendar. And like, it just made it so much easier. And she wasn't strict about, because at the end of the day, you do what you want to do. So I got to do what I wanted to do. And she's like, I had dates on the calendar. I'm like, I'm not doing this. And she's like, it's fine. You don't have to. Like, it's just a game plan. You don't have to follow it so strictly.
Right.
But I think I forgot how many I sold in the first, month or two, but I sold way more than I thought.
I want to say your goal was 10. And I think I remember sending you an email, and I could probably pull it up. I think I remember sending you an email like, hey, checking in, like we're coming close to like that 30-day mark. And I want to say you ended up selling like 11. Like, I really think like you exceeded your goal within that first 30 days. And that's amazing. And I think one of the important things to note is, especially if you're considering doing a product, like I don't want to say while that may sound low, but while that may sound like, oh, like it wasn't like you're selling 100 and you have all of these followers, something we have to remember is this is something different, right? Messaging is different than what you normally talk about. You normally talk about, hair and thrifting. And so keeping that in mind, that while you might have a few people here and there sprinkled in your audience who are interested in it, you're also building a whole new audience and adding something new to like your offer suite. So keeping that in mind. And then again, with your product, it wasn't a closed cart date, but in every month you were still using some of those strategies to still get, return on your investment. So I think that was really amazing to see. And even now, like when I look in like your influencer rate calculator group, I'm just like, oh my God, Tyler, like a year ago, like this didn't even exist. And you've added so many bonuses and upgrades and things. I just think it's amazing. But in order to get to this point, like you had to start, a year and a half ago.
Exactly. And then also, I guess you were talking about we could probably launch again. And I was so confused by that because I felt like in my mind, when you launch a product, you only launch it once because like, I don't, it doesn't make sense to me that you keep relaunching. So can you explain what the benefit of relaunching is and like, why would you relaunch? Because in my mind, I'm like, well, now it's out in the world and that's that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the relaunch process that you're going through is for the new people who have come along. It's for two reasons. For the new people who have come along, they've just discovered you, you launched, I believe it was like February of last year. So it's for those people who have discovered you in the meantime. You're presenting them with another period of time of specific niched information about your product. And it also helps you increase let me take a step back. I think we forget that launching is more than just like, oh, I'm going to get these few sales here. Launching helps with your visibility. So regardless if people are buying or not, people are watching you and they're seeing you. So it helps with your visibility. It's helping you with your reach. Your reach is expanding, especially when you bring on other people who are doing testimonials and all of that. It helps with your authority and your know, like, and trust. I mean, launching, all of those things come into the launching, and it presents you with other opportunities, other people who've seen like, oh, wow, I just heard about your rate calculator. I had no idea. So the purpose of relaunching is because we can't assume that your audience just knows that your products and offers exist. So, and you don't have to do, huge launches on scales. You can absolutely do whatever fits best for you, but it's important to do it at least a couple of times a year so that you're really inviting people to either work with you or purchase your product. You have a solution and you can't just assume that they know. And then for the people who were kind of on the fence last time, now you're giving them an opportunity to reconnect with you again. Maybe I didn't buy last time, but you know what, maybe you bring someone on who does a testimony and something that person says resonates with someone else. So it's not necessarily that, you sold the product again, but products sell great when other people sell it for you. So those are some of the benefits of relaunching, and it always helps. And you've made improvements. You have new features, you have new things, new ways, that people can use the calculator, plus your support group. So all of those other things that have happened are a great way to really just put your product back in people's minds.
Yes, and we have the Blended Beauty Flo from the Blended Beauty is in the comments. She's amazing. She just launched a a ton of email templates if you're an influencer on how to talk to brands in different scenarios.
Nice.
And it's like gold. I always watch Flo's lives because she shares so many great tips. But so she recently launched that. I think, Flo, did you launch, was it the beginning of March, mid-March? She just launched. So
Oh,
she said, facts,
congratulations.
she said, I recently launched and I plan to have a launch strategy every quarter. So I think that's so good. And she said referrals are top tier. So I think oh, she launched last Monday.
Oh my
Hold
gosh.
on, she just launched. My dates are so bad. She just launched,
Oh,
and
that's
I
awesome.
believe she announced it to her email list and did that whole kind of rollout and been talking about it on social. And go check out Flo's page. She has amazing resources and an amazing product, a digital product.
Yay, congratulations. That's awesome. I love seeing that.
But the I guess so. I guess what tips do you have for people who want to launch a digital product? I guess what are like the different
Yeah.
advice you would give them?
So first I would want to say, before I give the tips, like release pressure. Release pressure of that you have to do it this way. I know for like me, I follow some like big wigs, so like Amy Porterfield and like Jasmine Star and Nicole Walters, who do all of these huge mega launches. Release pressure that you have to do something like that. Like, it's okay to start where you are and just baby step it, because everyone has started at a level somewhere. So release pressure that you have to have things look a certain way. And then from there, my first tip would be pick a date. Just literally open up your calendar. If you're traveling over summer, if it's not going to work, then if maybe summer is the best time because kids are out of school or what have you, for you to like complete some of the loose ends. So then maybe you launch it, after, I would suggest after the back to school season, if you don't do over summer, like whatever it is, pick a date and promise yourself that you're not going to move that date. Like, keep it, or maybe it's like within a week time range. But I think one of the things that happens is we set a date and we don't meet that date, and like a little bit of a part of us inside kind of like diminishes because we're like, oh man, I knew I wasn't going to do that. Like, take that off of yourself, set a date and stick to the date. And then from there, you backtrack and figure out what all do you need to make happen. So that's where I step in, and you don't have to kind of like brain dump it yourself. Like, I already know like exactly everything that needs to happen, especially specific to your goals. But if you're not working with someone like me, a launch manager, you can absolutely do this on your own. What needs to happen? You need graphics, you need captions, you need emails. If you don't have an email list while you're building your product and finishing your product, start building your email list. Social media is amazing, but social media is finicky. Your email list is where a lot of your gold comes from, because it allows you to stay in contact with your subscribers consistently. And that data from your email will really help you know what's working, what's not. Data from social media, maybe they saw your post, maybe they didn't. Like, again, it's so up in the air, versus email. You can look and see like, wow, this email had a 50% open rate and this one only had a 20. So what was wrong? Like, not what was wrong, but what needs to be tweaked about this email, or maybe my audience wasn't interested in this type of email. All of that kind of data and information will help you. And I know I kind of went like way over, but I think my first tips would be, again, release the pressure. You can do this your way. You can baby step it. Set a date. Don't move the date. Set a date, set a range. You're going to launch in the first week of September, whatever. Set a date. Don't move the date. And then start brainstorming everything that needs to happen before then. And my final tip in that process would be, everything that you've brainstormed that needs to happen, put it somewhere electronically. I know we all have, like, I've got notebooks all around, I've got sticky notes everywhere, but put it somewhere electronically, because as you're working on things, you don't want to, one, lose a list, because oh my gosh, the anxiety and stress that comes from losing a handwritten list, like, you're trying to remember. And then two, it helps you move things around. It helps you realize like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. I don't know if this is realistic, so let's move it to the bottom of the list. If I get to it, great. If not, it's going to be okay. And then making sure that you give yourself, again, timelines for each of those tasks. Because I think that's another thing that we tend to forget. Like, we have this huge long laundry list of things we need to do for a project. but we don't give ourselves due dates for a few of those items. That kind of stuff really, really makes a difference between completing it and not completing it.
And so if you mentioned that you worked backwards from, you set a date and then worked backwards, and in the comments Flo said she was building in public for months. So do you have any suggestions on how far, like how far back do you plan from the launch date?
Yeah, so I guess it depends if your product is done or not done. Is really a big one, because if your product is pretty much like 80 to 90% complete, I think you can start slowly dripping content anywhere between 3 and 2 months out. When you're getting to that 2 month mark, you really need to start focus messaging on your pre-sales event. So whatever you're going to do, if you're going to do a series of videos, a master class, a virtual workshop, whatever like your boost event is that you're doing, that messaging and stuff needs to start happening around 2 months out. So you need to start kind of slowly dripping, and it can be niche related content, So for example, Tyler, you were talking about rate calculators with yours. Niche content 3 months out before you re-release it could be like how you negotiated a brand deal, how you discovered that what other people are charging and what some of the norms are, and how all of the negotiation, like all of that could be pre-content. And then as you move closer, you're kind of setting the framework with people. You're changing their mind over here. You're giving them things to think about, and then you give them the solution within, the next 60 or so days. So I think that's probably a really great timeline.
And then what kind of digital products have you seen that were like kind of cool, kind of interesting, or that you've helped launch?
So honestly, yours, outside of the general like course and course membership podcasts have been most of the digital ones. Yours I think has been like the I don't want to say funnest, but the funnest. Just because it's different. Like who launches a calculator? Most people have done courses and things, which there's nothing wrong with that. I've actually had quite a few physical product launches within the last year, and I'm working on one fun now, but one of the other ones was a subscription box. And that was really, really fun to work on, to kind of piece together like everything that needs to happen, the testing, the sourcing of the t-shirts and labels, and how is she going to, because in your mind you're thinking like, oh, I want to do this thing. And I think one of the things that we worked on within that subscription box process is remembering like, hey, you have to do this. So even though she wanted to physically have the inventory because she didn't want to send anything out that she couldn't like touch, that she didn't know was good, we had to remember like, do you have a space in your house for inventory? Like, how is this going to work? Like, let's go ahead and set a reoccurring date that things are going to be shipped out. Are things going to be shipped out on Monday, maybe Monday and Wednesday, because then it gives you the weekend to work on it, things like that. So yes, I'm helping with launching, but I don't want to just leave you like, okay, the launch is done, bye. Like, I want you to be able to sustain and keep up with it. So that one was really, really fun to work on.
No, launching is like it's such an intense process. It's overwhelming. It's stressful. So that's why having JayJay helping me made sense. I work a full-time job. Like I do all the stuff on the side. Like I could not have launched alone without JayJay. And it's funny that you mentioned that you enjoyed working on the subscription box, because if I ever were to launch a physical product, I want to launch a subscription box. Yes. So maybe I'll, if I ever get my life together, I will work with you to get that launched.
I think that'll be so fun and so perfect for you, and just, the different aspects and things that you could put in it and how you could make it different, and of course sustainable and all of that, I think really fits with your niche. So like I'm waiting on that day where you're like, okay, let's do this, because it's gonna be really exciting. And I think the other thing to note is like, you might not need, like, you didn't need me to manage the whole process. You're great at execution on your own. You're great at implementation and following through. It was like that, like, what do I do is like what you needed. So I love that it wasn't like I had to come in one specific way, but that I could kind of customize something for you, where it was like you just needed the laundry list of things to follow in order with due dates, the mandatory things, and then the if I have time things, and then you were able to go from there. And you really did. You were able to go and, you know, take off, and it worked really well. So just remembering that, you know, we each have our different needs.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess, does anyone have any questions about launching? Like, do you have any plans on launching your own product of some sort? If you do, JayJay will. I was like, we will answer, but JayJay will answer questions.
You know things now, though. Like, yeah, you know things now. You're knowledge based, and there are probably things that you would want to do, you know, differently going around on the next time.
And then I guess we can cover, so we talked about the influencer rate calculator. Go to the influencerratecalculator.com if you want to get yours. Basically, it helps you figure out how much to charge for brand deals for different platforms, for TikTok, for Instagram, for Pinterest. Like, it literally it takes like seconds to fill out, and then it'll tell you a fair rate to charge to make sure you're charging your value. But we also launched a podcast, and I feel like we never really talk about that. And that was a whole process. And it's funny.
Oh my gosh.
There were 6 of us, and at the time when we first launched, there were 7 of us, and so we all had different ideas on how to launch. And I'm over here like, we can just post it, like, and JJ's like, no, we cannot. So I guess, can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. Okay, so launching the Orange Club podcast, you're absolutely right. It was totally like even myself, because I had been on the launch of a podcast before and assisting with launching a podcast before, but never like involved in launching the podcast. So that was definitely different to manage and to, you know, have to record and execute. But I think, you know, the first step that we did was, one, deciding like what the podcast was going to be about. What are we talking about? Our differentiating factor, like what makes us different. And even along the way, I will say, realizing what changes need to be made. So like in season 1, we were all a part of the podcast, like on most episodes. And after season 1, we realized like it's kind of confusing for people to hear 5 different voices at once. So maybe we need to break it up and have a maximum of 3 people. So I think that's been great, is, you know, you learn some of these things as you go. But definitely getting the schedule down, realizing, did we want to just go? Do we want to have seasons? Like some of those decisions. And then when you launch a podcast, you need to have a couple of episodes already ready for people to binge. Because if they find a podcast and they like it, they want to keep listening. And so if you only launch with your teaser in 1 episode, you're kind of leaving them hanging. So we decided to launch with the teaser plus 3 episodes in the bank already. And then we were going to launch, or we were going to release episodes every week after that. Graphics, social media posts, you know, did we want to do snippets of the audio? Like, there are literally so many options. Then we had a sister, like we have our Facebook group with it. So then, you know, trying to figure out how to tie in the Facebook group. So this week's topic, for example, this week, we released a podcast episode about hobbies, like the importance of hobbies and like needing that mental break through your day or your week and filling that time with something. So then we started a conversation thread over on Facebook about hobbies. So just really kind of figuring out like, what do you want to do from your podcast? What do you want to, like, what's the purpose? And then kind of going from there.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because no matter what the digital product is, like if it's a it's a podcast, a product, I don't know what you call a podcast, but
yeah, I think it could be. Yeah.
So if you like, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a calculator, whether it's a subscription box, like it seems like the process is the same.
Yes.
No matter what. Yeah, it's a different product and the messaging will change, but it sounds like it's like, you know, figure out who your product is for, figure out what problems it serves or it solves, figure out the audience, figure out the messaging, figure out the how you're going to share it and be visible.
Right.
And then sticking to that date. It seems straightforward, but like there's so many little pieces, and I am not good at little detail. I will forget all the detail. And it's funny because JayJay also does, like, there's an event side of her. She did a really cool event that we could probably talk about too, but there was an event side of your launching as well. And JayJay's actually going to be my day of coordinator for my wedding, which is going to be so fun. But I guess too, so we talked all about the digital. So what about the event side? What do you do on the event side? How do you launch an event? That sounds overwhelming. Is it the same process?
Kind of. So event is a little bit more, but it is, so with the overarching of project management, you have a start and end date, right? So that's the main thing. You pick your start date, and here's your end date. So for, let's say, an event, start date is whenever you bring a planner on or whenever you start planning, and the end date is when the event, well, a week after the event, because I believe that every event needs a debrief, but that's a whole other thing. So event and project. So a launch debrief as well, because we need to look at the numbers. We can't ignore the numbers because there's a lot of detail and data in there. But the event is literally the same thing. I follow some of the same process in terms of like strategy and decision, like creation, implementation, testing, finalization, like the actual launch or event, and then like the debrief. Like I have like a 5-part system. So I follow that same system regardless if it's a launch or an event. But with a launch event, or an event that encompasses part of your launch, it's really great because it gives you the opportunity to be hands-on with people. So if you look at, workshops or things that happen, one-day retreats or whatever, you see that happen around, usually the person hosting is also announcing another way for you to work with them, right? Or another way for you to partner with them. That is a launch. Like, so they've used a physical in-person event as their pre-launch, and they've stretched out the process. And during that event, now they're launching something. Or maybe they have a new book that's out and now they have a book table. Like this was a part, like they're combining the process and now it's a part of it. So I really, really think that's fun. I think it's creative. It's definitely heavier on the financial side. Depending on how much you want to spend. However, I will say a lot of events rely heavily on sponsorship. So use Tyler's rate calculator to see how much you should be charging on things, but a lot of them rely heavily on sponsorship. So a lot of the financial stuff isn't solely on you to figure out, plus the sale of event tickets and all of that go into it. But now you have a captive audience, and when we connect more in person, it's you're just building and strengthening your community that much more. So that's why I really love events, and I think it's a fun way to incorporate both things.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of events where they do that, where the event is fun and gets all the excitement, but then they announce the product, which they may not tell you they're launching the product at the event, but so it's even more exciting. Events are just fun.
And I think after COVID, like the event, like people are ready and willing to travel and to meet. And not only that, but you have to remember, like, the event attendees, give them a space and a container to connect with one another, because a lot of it all plays into the event experience. And so when they leave, they're going to think like, oh man, I will totally come back to this again. Like they're totally bought in because you've created, and that's what I really like. You create, and I say, a memorable and meaningful experience, whether you're doing that online or in person. Those high touch points, those high experiences are what people remember. It's what makes them buy into you and your products, and it's what makes them refer you and your products to other people.
And I'm glad you mentioned online, because Serene Eco asked, would you say the same about online events?
Oh, what did I say? The same about what? I'm so sorry. The same about like, I can't scroll up.
Sometimes Instagram just breaks and freezes, and
I can't scroll up, but sorry, if you can clarify, like, the same about which part. I think events, again, I come from an event background, so I'm definitely pro all events, as long as they're done right and with a lot of heavy intentionality. I think they're a great way to boost your business, and a great way to get in front. And so here's the other thing about events. Events help, again, so my thing that my goal is to help you increase your visibility. Events do that, because when you're having an event, the local community around you knows that you're having an event and they're talking about the event. You know what I mean? Different people in the city, depending on how big, if you're doing a day conference or whatever, maybe other businesses, you're letting other businesses, sister niche businesses know about it. All of this is helping with your visibility. So even if even if it's like maybe a more intimate 20-person event, other people know that this is happening and now they're paying attention and watching you. So even you have a captive audience, even if they're not there. I don't know how many Atlanta brunch, things that I follow and watch. And no, I'm not there, but I'm captivated and I'm bought in and I'm refreshing the stories because I want to see what's going on. All of that helps for their business. Oh, okay, wait, let's see. Connecting with the audience and considering it a pre-launch. Yeah, I think it can be part of the plan. So let's say you have a book coming out, and maybe you're hosting a writer's workshop or something, right? Or a writer's weekend, and you have this one day in-person writer's weekend. And at the end of it, you're launching either your book, your course about writing, how to write a book, you're launching your one-on-one service about walking through the editing process of books, like whatever it is. I think that can be all part of one major launch. So it's different components, but the end goal is to launch this final product, and you're leveraging a workshop, a one-day conference, an event to get to that final part.
And I've seen just in the in-person events, you're right. It's like seamless when I've been to so many conferences where at the conference you hear an amazing speaker and then the speaker's like, if you want more, check out my online course, or
Right.
like, and so I feel like when you go to an event, you already expect to be spending money. You expect there to be vendors and stuff. So I think I don't know, it's just a good way to get people to buy your product.
It is. And it can be, and it can be part of the pre-launch process. I mean, if you, and I use the example of book because I know that they have such a great, like flow. So if you look at like when Michelle Obama launched Becoming, like how many events, literally how many different readings and sittings and event interviews and things like that did she have just to launch the book? So you can use a similar model to do the same thing, whether it's your service or whatever else you have coming up. You can leverage it and you can really kind of play around with the different options, because the options are endless.
Mm-hmm. It looks like Serena Eco, she does sustainability consulting. So there could be a whole clothing swap or something to pre-launch. Like,
yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that absolutely. I know you've done clothing swaps and they've done great. And Amber has done, one of the other co-creators of Orange Collab, she's done like natural hair care product swaps, because we all have way more natural hair products than we need, even just regular hair care products. So I think that could be really, really great to leverage on that. And maybe even like a workshop, maybe people like myself, I look at Tyler for different ways to include sustainability in my life. Like, until I watched this story from Tyler, I had no idea that reusable cotton like squares was even a thing. Went and bought one. Like, so you can have something like for people who are really, really wanting to reduce reduce some of the hazard materials that they use. You can absolutely have something like that, and then after have an in-person workshop or whatever, and then after invite them, if they want to know more, if they want to dive deeper, here's your offer. That would actually be really, really cool.
mm-hmm. No, I think that would be cool. And then it looks like Freedom Farm Malibu said, aligning yourself with cause-driven events or brands you believe in is its own best push forward. And at the same time, saying no to things that don't align, no matter how amazing it is sometimes best. That's really true too.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's so exciting.
I think that was a good note to end on. That was so good. Thank you all for your
Yeah.
questions. Check out JayJay. JayJay, where can they find you if they need help launching their event,
Yeah.
their product, whatever it is?
Absolutely. So let's chat. I hang out on Instagram for the most part. So I'm at with Jay Braggs. Send me a DM. I promise I'm friendly, and I usually like sending voice messages back. So if you don't mind voice messages, absolutely send me a DM. And my website is jaybraggs.com, JayBraggs.com. Yeah, but let's chat. Let's hang out. And I have quite a few tips and different videos and things on my Instagram for you to deep dive in to help you along the way.
Yay!
Yes.
Well, thank you all. Thank you so much, JayJay.
Yeah.
If I launch another, I need to relaunch the calculator, so we will be in touch. And then
Yes.
I want to launch the physical product, like subscription box thing, very soon.
Absolutely. For your next launch, we'll record some like behind the scenes stuff so that people can, so like we can create like a whole like video series for your YouTube or something so that people can kind of see how you're doing it.
Yes, that would be fun. So, all right. Well, you all have a good day. JayJay, have a great day.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.